Hello, everyone, and welcome today to our webcast, Object Properties and Inquiry Commands in AutoCAD 2020 with Renu Matu, ASCENT Learning Content Developer. Renu, I welcome you and I pass things over to you.
Thank you, Corinne. So welcome, everyone. And the title, as you can see on the screen for today's presentation, is Object Properties and Inquiry Commands. So I'll be going over the various tools that let you gather information about the objects in AutoCAD. So as Corinne mentioned, I am your presenter today, and my name is Renu Matu. And as she mentioned also that I'm a learning content developer with ASCENT. I have over 20 years of experience in various Autodesk products. Here at ASCENT, my main work is to write and update the courseware material, including the training guides for various Autodesk software products, such as AutoCAD and other AutoCAD verticals that include AutoCAD Electrical, AutoCAD Mechanical, Plan Design. And then I also create the courseware material on the Autodesk visualization side of software products, and that includes Autodesk 3ds Max and V-Ray Professional. As always, I will be explaining the topic with the help of the PowerPoint presentation, as you can see on the screen. And then I will also demonstrate the commands and how to use those commands in the AutoCAD 2020 software. So let's get started. So today's topic I'll be presenting is to how to locate information about the objects in an AutoCAD drawing. I'll be presenting the information from Chapter 9 of AutoCAD 2020 Fundamentals Training Guide. In this chapter, which is the Analyzing Model and Object Properties, you learn about extracting information and then modifying the objects by manipulating that information. On a side note, those of you who are planning to take the AutoCAD certification exam, these commands are the basic tools that will be used pretty frequently throughout the exam. So these tools are really handy for those of who you want to take the AutoCAD certification exam. So now the learning objectives are the obtain basic information about objects, make changes to objects using the properties palette, use inquiry commands to measure. We'll be measuring distances, radius and diameters, and areas. Now, first of all, we'll start with working with object properties. So every object in AutoCAD software has two types of information in them. So the first one is object properties such as layer, color, and line type, and so on and so forth. And the other kind of information that is provided with that the objects have is the geometric information, such as the vertex points, length, area, etc. So when I say vertex points, it's the coordinates of those vertex points. For example, there's a circle where the center of the circle is located on the screen or the drawing window. And what's the length of the line, for example. So all those, these are the geometric information that is provided. The most basic way of gathering some information is by hovering the cursor over an object. So if you see the first figure on the slide, it is just by hovering over an object, and it gives you just the basic information, like what is the layer, what is the line type, and what is the color of that object. So if you want to go further and gather some more information or extract some more information, so what you have to do is you have to select an object. So you should not be in a command. So when not in a command, you have to select an object, and what it does is it displays in the grip mode, which means it is highlighted and grips are displayed on the screen for that object. And the basic information about that object displays in the Quick Properties panel. The small panel that you see, the second figure on your screen, it's the Quick Properties panel. And it gives you some of the basic information. In addition to that, you can also change that information in this Quick Properties panel. And the properties that are provided, they vary depending on the type of the object that is selected. Because, for example, this is line, so it'll give you the width and is it open or closed. But if you had a circle, it'll give you what the radius is, where the center point is, and so on and so forth. So that's why it varies with each object that is being selected. Now, the Quick Properties panel, it displays along with the selected object, as I mentioned, in the group mode. But for this to display on the screen, the Quick Properties tool should be toggled on in the status bar. So you can see that there is this small tool. This is located in the status bar, and it should be clicked on, which is highlighted in blue. In case this tool is off, it is toggled off, then you won't, when you select an object, the Quick Properties panel is not going to display. In that case, if you don't want to have it on all the time for all the properties, so for one of the objects, if you want to see the properties of that, you can right-click on that and select Quick Properties from the shortcut menu. And that will again display the Quick Properties panel. So in addition to viewing the information about the selected object, you can also change some of the properties I told you before. And when you click on that property and select a drop-down list opens up, and as you can see for the closed option here, there's the drop-down list. You can leave it yes or no. You can change it here because it provides you with those options. Or you can also do one thing. You can just click in an edit box. For example, the global width is given here, and it's 0.000. You can click in it, and you can enter information there to change it. So you can do either one of those, whatever is provided for that particular property. Now, in addition to the Quick Properties, there is another tool that is provided in AutoCAD software, and that's the list command. So the list command, what happens is that when you invoke this command, and you have an object selected, what it does is it opens a text window, and in that text window, it gives you some of the properties of the selected object. The difference between the list command and the Quick Properties is that in list command, you cannot change any property. But using the Quick Properties, as I mentioned, you can change the different properties which are provided in the Quick Properties panel. Now, there is another tool that has been provided with AutoCAD, and that is the Properties palette. So if you want to get detailed information about the object in your drawing, at that point in time, you use the Properties palette. Again, it's a palette, and which means that it is a modeless dialog box, which means that you can leave it open all the time, and you can be working on different objects and in your drawing. And whenever you leave it on the side, either attached towards the side, or you can have it free form just anywhere on the screen, or you can close it too. So as I said before, you can also change the properties as required by clicking in the value field and entering a new value for that property. And also, there is also a list will be provided, and if you can select one of the options from the list to change a property. But in the Properties palette, what happens is that when you move the cursor over an option in the drop-down list, the object in the drawing window changes to provide a preview of the highlighted option. So it comes in handy because you can see the preview and see, oh yeah, that's what I want to change, and it will look like this later when you confirm the change. Some properties display a list of options. So it's generally with the layer property that you have a list of options, so different kinds of layers. Here on the screen you can see that when I open the layer drop-down list, you can have all the different layers that are present in that drawing, and then you can choose any of the, if you want to make a change there. And some properties are numerical. So as I said that here in the geometry one, the center X, center Y, so on and so forth, these are numerical. And you have to click in the value field, and then you can enter another number. You can also here, it gives you a calculator, quick calculator, or you can also modify the location of a point on the screen. So these two, the options are provided along with the edit box. So the next one is that if you select more than one object of the same type, for example, you select two circles, the AutoCAD software lists the type of properties that may have been that are in common between the two objects. If their values are different, they are listed as varies. So when here you can see the center axis varies because you have selected I have selected two circles in here, and the center X and center Y are different for them. One is placed, the coordinates of one center is different, and the coordinates of the other center of the circle is different. So then it lists as varies. You can change these properties for all of the selected objects at the same time. For example, again, here you have two circles selected, and you can click on the radius, maybe if the radius says varies, click on the radius, and then it changes into an edit box. And then you can enter, for example, 2.5 or something. It makes the radius of both the circles the same. So that's how you can change a property of multiple objects in just one click of a button. If you select different types of objects now, so for example, you have selected a circle and a line. So what AutoCAD software does, it displays the only types of properties that are in common. If their values are different, they are listed again as varies. You can also change the common properties of all of the selected objects at the same time, and you can also switch between different types of objects using the drop-down list. So here you can see there in total in that drawing are 4 objects that have been selected. So out of that, there are 2 lines and 2 circles. So you can have 2 circles, 2 lines only selected. You can have 2 circles selected and then changing their properties as opposed to having all 4 of them selected. So you have that option as well in the properties palette. Now, the next tool that is provided in AutoCAD software is the matching properties tool. So what it does is to make objects in your drawing have the same properties as another object, you can use the match properties command. So it enables you to select one object as a source object from where it gets the properties, and then copy its properties to another object that you select. After you select first of all, when you select the source object, the cursor changes into a small square box and a paintbrush looking type of the cursor. So as you can see in the second figure here, right here, so you have selected your source object as this dashed line in the screen, and then it changes into this square box and a paint box. When you move the cursor and hover it over another object that you're going to probably select later, it will give you a preview of the new properties as to how the new object is going to look like. So once you select the object, that's when you commit the change. So match properties, it works across drawings as well. So if you specify the source object in one drawing, Then in the drawing tab bar, you can click into another drawing, switch to it, and then select the destination object in the second drawing. If a layer does not exist, for example, you're changing the layer, and the layer in the source object in this drawing, there is a certain layer which does not exist in the destination drawing, it will be created, automatically created, because that's what you're doing. You're moving that property into another drawing as well. So when you hover over an object in the second drawing, the object highlights, but it does not display a preview of the new properties. In that case, in two drawings, it does not give you a preview like it gives you preview of the change if both the objects are in the same drawing. You can match all or some of the object's properties. It can be done through the settings dialog box. Now, the properties that can be matched, it is all controlled through the property settings dialog box. And this dialog box is selected once you have have invoked the match properties command, and then you have selected the source object. At that point in time, you can right-click and then select settings. That will display the property settings dialog box at that time. By default, all the properties are selected. So in the properties dialog box, everything is selected because that's the default option. Now, another tool that is provided with AutoCAD software is the Quick Select tool. So it can be used to select objects using their properties. So it opens a dialog box in which you can specify a selection set by object type or by property. So such as all the circles with the radius of 0.25, for example. Here in the Quick Select dialog box that you can see on the screen. So we are selecting the property radius, and which will equal to 0.25. Which means that all of the objects, all the circles which have the radius of 0.25 will be selected. So that's how you can create a selection set. So in the Quick Select dialog box, there is an Apply To, and you can use the entire drawing. So it will select everything from an entire drawing, or you can select various objects, and then from that it can create a selection set. Then in the properties, select the property that you want to filter. As I said earlier, for example, we want the radius. We can choose any of the property that we want to filter. And all those properties, again, they vary based on the selected object type. Then we select an operator. So, for example, here equals to means equal to 0.25, whatever the value is. You can also have greater than, less than, and so on and so forth. So, again, also there are two more options that are provided in the Quick Select. That is include in new selection set and exclude from new selection set. So what happens is that it places all the objects, the include in new selection set, it places all the objects that meet the criteria in the new selection set. And exclude from new selection set means that it places all the objects that do not meet the criteria in a new selection set that is created. So let's go into the software demonstration first for showing those quick properties and properties, all those things. So this is, I already have a few objects that are on the screen in the drawing window. And now, first of all, we will hover. I said by hovering over an object, you can see those properties. So these are just the basic information that is provided by hovering over an object. Now, if you want to go further and want a little bit more information and you want to modify those information as well, you have to select it, and it goes into the grip mode. But right now, there is no quick properties panel that is being displayed because that quick properties is here in the status bar that is not selected. So you can either select it and then it will highlight the properties, quick properties panel. So here it shows you that there's a layer, it's on layer object, that this object has been created on layer object. But if you select it, there's a drop-down list, and you can choose any of the object that you want, any of the layer that you want. So, and then also the preview will be shown in the drawing itself. So if you choose the spouted partitions, it is magenta in color. See, it changes there. Similarly, plumbing, stairs, so on and so forth. So you can choose one of the options from that drop-down list. So if for example, you do not need always, whenever you're working in the grip mode, you do not want to see the quick properties panel all the time. So what you can do is you can switch it off. And then after working, if you need to see the properties or modify the properties of an object, all you have to do is, in that case, right-click and select quick properties. It will also do the same thing, but for that individual object and not for everything. In case the quick properties is selected in the status bar, what happens is that it will show for all the objects, whatever you are selecting. So for example, arc selected, it will show you the quick properties for that. Select this arc, it will show you the quick properties for that one. And similarly, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there you go. Now, after the quick properties, let us switch it off. If you want detailed information, you want to gather the detailed information, or you want to go further and modify certain properties, you have to open the Properties palette, and that can be done through the View tab. And in the Palettes panel, here is the Properties tool. So if you click on that, a detailed list of information. So because nothing is selected, everything is up there, but nothing is selected right now. So if you can see that you can't do anything because there's no object has been selected. So if I select this line, it'll show you all the details, and at the same time, it can give you have the option of changing. So for example, again, if you want to change the object, the layer object to partitions, you can do that. So here we did it. And you can also, for example, you want to move it, or you want to increase, you want to lengthen it, for example. So here it's minus 26, for example, X and Y. So if we enter, we can do it for a circle, so we can change the diameter of the circle. So let's go in here and change the diameter and the radius of the circle, and also the moment. So properties. So so it shows that your center is located right at minus 23 feet and 11.5 by 8 inch. So if you change it to, so probably minus 27, and then press enter, see it moves. So you can change it there. So these are the edit boxes. So Control Z. So we'll move it back. Similarly, if you select more than one object, for example, I'm selecting these different circles. So what happens is that the center X, because the center is at different places, it shows varies, plus the radius is varied, the diameter is different. So if we want to have those objects of same size, you want to make this object same size as these objects, or vice versa, or get them in to make them into the same size, what you can do is go into varies and then enter it. So let's first find out what the diameter or the radius of the smaller circle is. So we can shift and remove it. So the radius is 2, 3 by 8. So we can make all the circles of 3. So we'll say radius. See, you changed it into 3 feet, and all the 3 objects changed. Similarly, you can go back in and go 3 inches instead of feet. and make them of smaller size. So, so that's the properties panel, and that's how you can gather information about the properties. You can have as I mentioned before, list command is there. So you can say list, and then select an object, for example, and then press enter, and there's the text window that comes up, and you can see all the different, the center point, and what the layer is. But the only difference is that you cannot change any of the information. It just lists the information in there. Then let's try with match properties. So let's go ahead and see what match properties does. So it's available in the Home tab, Properties panel, and you have the match properties right there. So if you start the command and you select a source object, so maybe this one, this has a dashed line in blue cyan color, so we can just say select that source object, and the cursor converts into a square and a brush, paintbrush kind of a thing. Now, if you hover over another object which does not have the same properties, so see here, so it changes. You can see it gives you a preview of the object in the new properties. So if you want to confirm that change, you commit to that change, you can select that object and the change is done. At the same time, you can choose multiple objects and keep on changing the objects in all different objects on the screen. So that's match properties. It's an easy way of changing the properties of objects and multiple objects at the same time. So let's proceed with the other commands as well. And let me go back into my presentation slide. This is done. So now let's start with the presentation for measuring objects. And what measuring objects means is that to get geometric information. So what these measuring tools does is that you can obtain exact measurements of objects that you create, that you have already created on the screen. So for example, you might need to check the diameter of a machine cylinder, the distance from a property line to the corner of a parking lot, or the area of a room in a house, and so on and so forth. So these tools are really, really useful, and they come in handy during all spheres of all engineering processes using AutoCAD. So we can, and these are, they extract exact measurements. So another thing is that to gather exact information, it's always good to use the object snaps with the measure tools. So for example, you want to find out the distance from one point to another, so you should use the object snap such as endpoint or point or any other object snaps from the center of this circle to the end of another line. You want to measure that distance. So using object snaps it will give you exact information and exact distances and accurate measurements. So measure tools, it's again, as you can see on the screen, it's available through the Home tab and the Utilities panel. And you have all different types of measuring tools like the quick measurement, the distance, radius, angle, area, and volume. So let's start with here, as you can see on the second figure here, we have calculated the area of a given of a room here, and it also gives you the perimeter and so on and so forth. So the quick measure tool, it provides you with multiple measurements in real time. So it's quick and easy way of displaying for example, the dimensions, the distances, and angles in a single command. So when you select this tool first, what happens is the cursor, it displays as an infinite plus mark. And as you hover the cursor over some objects, whichever objects it touches, this cursor, the plus mark touches, it appropriate measurements that are close to the cursor are displayed. So as you can see on this figure here, the dimensions of the, so this is the cursor, that plus mark, and it shows you, it highlights the objects that it touches. So it touches this line here, it touches this line here, and this line here at the same time. So what it's providing you, it's providing you with the dimensions for this line, because this line touches it. It is providing you the dimensions for this one. It's also providing you the dimensions and the distance between the two lines. So from here to here, the distance is this much. And again, the distance from this top line to the bottom horizontal line, it provides you the distances. It also provides you with two angles, or the two corners, and says that these angles are rectangular angles because these are two right angled marks, which shows the 90-degree angles. So these are dynamic real-time measurements. So it's an easy way, and this quick measurement, just to give you an idea, it was introduced in the AutoCAD 2020 software. This is new feature in the AutoCAD 2020. It wasn't present before. Now the next is how to measure distances. So again, the distance command, the distance tool is provided along with the measuring tool. So what happens is that it's actually one of the most basic measurements you need to make, and distance is between 2 points. So again, using object snaps to select the 2 points to locate, you should always prefer to use, it's recommended to use object snaps so that you can select 2 points and get the exact distance. There's also a possibility you can get the running distance by selecting multiple points, or multiple points option is provided. And then what happens is that, for example, it provided you a distance of first line, which you selected. Then if you select the second line, it will add the distance of that line to this and give you a total of the 2 lines. So similarly, you can keep on adding more lines to it or more objects to it, and it will give you more length, more distance, accumulative distance of all the different objects or different lines that you have picked. So next one is how to measure the radius and the diameter. You can measure the diameter or radius of arcs and circles. And once you select a circle or arc to measure, it will give you it will also, so then you have to choose from the list of options. You can choose either the radius or the angle, radius or the diameter. So once you select the radius option, it will give you the diameter as well. Then we have the measure angle. Again, you can use the angle option to second. So for that, you have to select the first line first and then the second line, and it provides you with the angle of the 2 lines that the 2 lines are making with each other. Now the area, it's a little, this one is the most important one, which is used quite frequently. And to get the area, again, you can choose it by, you can select the area, you can get the exact area by selecting the points. So you have to pick the 4 points or 5 points or 6 points. And as you keep on picking the points, it will show you a green fill area, which identifies that that's the area that it's measuring. You can also include or exclude areas. So for example, you have an area of a square, of a shape, and then there is some area in the middle which you do not want to get that area for. So for example, there's a floor and you want to get the exact measurements of how much area you are going to cover with the hardwood, for example, but there's an area in the center somewhere which is tiled. So you do not want to gather that information, so you can always remove that selected area and it will give you an area around it. So you can add or subtract more areas to the area command. So again, as I mentioned, the green fill area, it mentions that that's the area that's been covered. That's the area that is going to provide you with information. Now it's also, you can use the select an object to gather information. So if there is an object, it is not a line, separate lines that you are going by. If a room is located and you need the area of that room, you can just, on the drawing window, you can just choose the object option, and you can either type O or select the object option through the list once you invoke this command, and then you can select the area. You can select that object and it will give you an area. You don't have to pick points. And also there is a possibility, for example, you do not have a closed area identified in a drawing. For example, there is a door at one point and that area is left open. So it's not a closed polyline for in the drawing, and for that what it does is it just connects the two last points that are open, and then adds an imaginary line there, and then provides you with the information of supposedly, like, it looks like a closed area, but it is not. So it creates a closed area out of an open area. The software does it automatically and provides you with the area. How you can subtract, as I mentioned before. So for subtraction, there's a little bit of a different way of calculating the area, and that's how you, first you have to add the whole area, that is the complete, complete area. So at that point you say add objects, and then these two are also calculated, and then you subtract these two portions. They turn brown and show that these have been subtracted from that green fill area. The brown areas are being subtracted, and then it provides you with the remainder of the area, whatever is calculated. So let's go back into our software, and I'll demonstrate all those tools that I just now talked about. So let's get here in this one, and you can see that this is a closed polyline. What you can do is to provide you with different, so we'll open up and we want to see, for example, we want to get the quick measurements. So you can see here how the quick measurements are giving. So the 2 plus, this is the infinite plus at the cursor, and whatever it touches, it will give you those dimensions. So it's giving you the dimension, the distance of that line, the dimension of that line. It's also providing you with the radius of the circle, and then it also provides you with the radius of that arc that it's touching here. So if I move it to the right, now you can see it's providing me, in addition to the line and the circle measurements, it's also providing me with the slanted line measurements. So wherever you move your cursor and whatever it touches, dynamically it gives you those dimensions. This, as I mentioned before earlier also, that this is a new tool that has been added in AutoCAD 2020. So let's go back now. We can get the distance. So again, the distance, you can choose an object or you can choose two points. So I have an object snap already. My object snap is already on here, and I have endpoints selected in the object snap. So all I have to do is pick those points. So I'll pick this point and then this point, and it provides me with the exact dimensions, or the area of like the length, the distance is right here. So I can also get the angle, whatever. So for the time being, it's giving me the distance. So it also provides me with an angle right there. So if I say angle, then I have to provide with 2 lines, but I don't have it here. So let's go in here and I'll show you how to get the angle. So I'll choose the first object and then the second object, and that's where it provides me with the angle. So there's a 34-degree angle between those 2 objects right there. Now let's go back and we can get the area option. So I'll show you how to get the area. So first of all, go in here and choose area, and then select that object. So it'll ask me, I can either pick the points, the different points, and choose the area of that object. But as I know, it's a polyline and it's a single polyline. I can choose from the down arrow. I can choose the object and then select the object, and it gives me the area of that complete object. It's 1045.5 square inches, and it green fills it and shows that that's the complete area. Now, if I want to remove this area out of that, and I only want the area of the rest of the object, what I have to do is go again, so with the area command, I have to go in the drop-down list, so I'll select and say add area. So with added area, what it does is, and the object, I'll choose the object option, and what it does is it gives me the complete area, so including the circle. Then again, I press enter, so that area has been calculated. I go into the drop down list again and say subtract area, but subtract area of, I don't want to select points, or I can get the object and then select that circle. So it takes that circle out of the total area, and now if you see, I press enter. So it says that the first area that it's providing you, 69.8 square inches, is the area of the subtracted area, which is the area of the circle. And the total area now is 975.7, because from the original area, whatever that was 1.25 or whatever, I read it out at that point, so it reduces the 69.8 square inches from there, and that's when it gives me the total area, new total area, by removing that circle out of that. So that's how you can find the area, and that's basically about the measuring tools. You have another measuring tool, which is the ID, point ID, and I think, yes, you can use it, ID point, and what it does is it gives you the vertices, the coordinate points of the vertices of the object. So for example, but there is an easier way now. You can select, what you can do is you can use the properties panel for that. So let's open the properties panel. Palette. I'll show you from there how you can choose the different vertices, and you can select this object, and it shows you that the first vertex is 1, and first vertex it is placed at, it has vertex X and Y points. The coordinate points are at this location. So if I choose a second one, so what it does is one, and it shows a cross mark. So that is what it identifies, that it is giving me the coordinate points of this this vertex. So if you want the vertex number 18, it gives you, and it also identifies which one is the 18th by a cross mark and gives you the location. Similarly, you can go on and choose whichever vertex you want. So any vertex of an object, you can choose it from here and get its coordinate points. So this is quite handy. It comes in quite handy in calculating or gathering information. So that is the vertices, how you can gather information. And now let's go back into our PowerPoint slide. So to summarize today's presentation, we were able to locate basic information using the quick properties. We were also able to locate detailed information, and we were also able to modify that information using the properties palette. Today I showed you how to match the properties of one object to another object. I also showed you how to extract multiple information dynamically using the quick measure tool. We also extracted distance, radius, diameter, and angles of objects, and we were also able to find area of a closed and open object. And to add to that, I also showed you how to subtract an area from the complete area. So these are some information about the ASCENT training manual. And so the AutoCAD 2020 Fundamentals Learning Guide, that's where I had taken this information from, and it was Chapter 9 of that training guide, and it is already available for you. It's like all other ASCENT learning guides. This guide has an Autodesk authorized publisher branding. This learning guide has the typical ASCENT layout where each chapter has the learning objectives to help you understand what you will be learning in that chapter. At the end of each chapter, the chapter review questions are provided, and this helps you in quickly reviewing and refreshing what was learned in the preceding chapter. An appendix is also provided at the end of the learning guide, and that helps you to prepare for the AutoCAD Professional Certified exam. So it shows you where to go and where to find that information, in which chapter you will get, you have to review to get that information. The guide is, this guide is also available as an instructor. So I was talking about the learning guide, and now we also provide it as an instructor guide version, which in addition to the regular learning guide information, it also contains the answers for the chapter review questions, and it also gives you the suggested timing that is required to complete each chapter in the training guide. It also gives you estimated timing to complete each chapter. And also a link has also been provided in that instructor guide, which links you to the overhead slides, so that are also provided with the training guide, learning guide. So, and with that, I think I'll pass it over to Corinne, and now it's your turn.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Renu. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly go over here the different product formats. So Renu was talking about how the material she was covering today is from the AutoCAD 2020 Fundamentals Learning Guide. So we do offer that learning guide in a print format. We also have it, the exact same content, but available in an ebook format if you prefer learning that way. You can also purchase e-learning bundles, which give you access to the course where, say for AutoCAD, you get access to 4 different guides within one e-learning bundle. And I think she also mentioned the instructor guides. So if you are teaching the course either internally in your own company or you are an instructor at an ATC, these are really handy to have because you've got all those timing suggestions and answers and everything to the questions are right in that guide for you. And just lastly, let's put up our contact information here, Renu, and we can, there we go. So you can purchase all of our materials here on the ASCENT website or eStore, either one. So ascented.com is the first website up there. If you need to reach us, our phone number, our email is there, and we're all over social media, as I mentioned earlier in the call, so do follow us there, especially if you want to get access to this webcast recording earlier than next week, which is when I will send it out. You can go on to the website here, onto our YouTube channel, and the webcast recording will be there.